I found Ward's system originally, CBBS Chicago, mentioned in an article, if I recall, it was in InfoWorld. And I went, that's cool. And I called it. And played around on it and went, that's really cool.
We used to read 80 Micro magazine religiously every month. And one month they brought out an article on bulletin boarding.
We talked about a lot at the local computer club. And a lot of them had seen the stories on Ward's system. It seemed like the same day we turned the thing on, it got its first phone call. And from there, just, kept going. CBBS Northwest, isn't that a little pretentious? You're kind of claiming this whole region, and you're there's one system in this, section of Oregon. I said, well, hey, when I named it, I was all there was, this side of San Francisco. So
that's when I got up on Bill Blue's Bellflower RCPM, and he had the big bulletin board list, which at that time was about 100 bulletin boards. Downloaded that list and started calling bulletin boards around the country. And it was always exciting. We never knew what was going to come up.
Within 2 years, there was easily 200 to 300 phone numbers that you could call into the RCPMs, the RBBSs, the CPMnet guys.
We celebrated 100 calls. It took us almost 3 months to get 100 calls on the bulletin board because nobody had modems.
Very few people were in it unless they either were active professionally in a related industry or perhaps had a lot of spare money.
In the first phase, everybody was a computer hobbyist.
I'm one of these guys that my first computer came in a kit, cost me $3,000 in 6 months to put together.
And you had to roll your own back in those days. An Altair 8800, really, boy, that was a machine you really had to build from scratch.
It started becoming a surprise when I could find some of the parts that used to go into computers that show up at Radio Shack. Wow, what's the world coming to?
Well, the system operators in town were not computer hobbyists anymore. They would go out and buy or download a program, put the thing up. They had no idea how to program. They weren't interested in programming, which was fine. That was the interest had changed from computer hobbyists to computer users.
You could buy a TRS-80, download your friend's software onto it. Now I'm a BBS. No, they didn't have to know a damn thing. All they had to do was have a phone line, and they could say they were a sysop. High schools were full of sysops.
It's Crazy Eddie's greatest home computer sale ever, and Crazy Eddie's going home computer crazy with the absolute lowest prices anywhere on anything and everything at home computers. Atari, Texas Instruments, Commodore, even the new low-price Timex Sinclair. Crazy Eddie's got them all the latest software too. Shop around, get the best prices you can find on home computers, then go to Crazy Eddie and he'll beat them. It's Crazy Eddie's greatest home computer sale ever, and Crazy Eddie's going home computer crazy. Crazy Eddie, his home computer sale prices are insane.
Or one summer, I'm saving up my money for a jam box, because I'm a teen and that's what you do. And I had a friend who took me to play computer games at this comic book store. I was a big comic book collector, and I read in a Superman comic where they had one of these sponsored insert comics inside the comic book. It was these two kids helping Superman fight some weather demon or something by using their TRS-80 Model 100 computer in some capacity to help them. And I came home and I said, that computer you've been telling me you wanted? We're going to get one now, and I'm going to put my money from the jam box towards this. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that this computer actually was so powerful, it helped Superman.
I sold my Atari 2600 in a box of cartridges to get my VIC-20. And because I thought, well, I can invest in video games forever. Like, this is a computer.
I think my dad got it because it made him feel like my kids are smart. And so instead of getting them toys for Christmas, I should get them this.
I used to copy and trade video games with my friends, which led to one of my buddies saying, "Hey, do you know what a BBS is? And they're, you can get games for free and all this stuff on these boards." I mean, all I know is pirate BBSs.
I'm just like, the idea of I'm talking to people and they could be anywhere and I don't know who they are. That's really neat. even if a lot of them turned out to be really boring.
The evening of December 25th, you could, for years, you could see, some of the boards just got clobbered.
Oh my God. Forgot it's the day after Christmas. We're not going to get on any boards today at all.
In fact, I think a lot of people actually use this as one word. 12-year-olds who got a modem for Christmas.
You had this mass of new callers that had no clue. And I know a lot of boards, mine included, a couple of years, we'd actually close the system down to new users for the first 2 months out of the year. Go cut your teeth someplace else. We don't want to hassle them.
For those of us who'd been there for many years, who'd had lengthy conversations as well as all the different types of interactions that had happened there, the sudden influx of Van Halen rules messages and the message counts just went through the roof because they were all very short, one sentence, me too kind of messages.
Their behavior just wasn't very adult-like, and they really mouth off and bash people and steal their code. And
a lot of them were just pure anarchists, too. They just loved creating chaos.
They gave us a voice that no one had before. We had no idea what to do with it. You took sticks of dynamite and handed them to 12-year-olds and said, now, if you can find the lighter, you can make this go boom. And, well, we found the lighter.
There was a serious rift between any of the 8-bit users, between Apple, between Atari, between Commodore.
I refer to them as Ford versus Chevy arguments. There was always this big argument between people who thought Chevy was the best car make and people who thought Ford was the best car make, and there were always this rivalry and this fight between them for what seemed like a completely pointless thing.
People get really, really heated. They get very, very defensive of their computers. It's not like you go and you buy a stereo or you buy a blender or toaster. A computer is a very, very personal thing. It's an expression of how you want to work, how you want to do things. It becomes an extension of yourself, and you tend to protect your own.
Each had their own group of followers. Each group of followers was very faithful to the company they chose.
Well, Ataris were the best computers ever made.
Forget it. The Apple II was the only software thing in town.
The Commodore, I think, did more to get people into computers than anything else on the planet.
When you thought of Atari, you thought of the highest quality, the best games, the best of everything. So it made sense that, if they come out with a computer, God, it's got to be the best thing around.
The Apple was the ultimate hackable piece of hardware.
The Lisa was beautiful, so I fell in love with Lisa.
Tandy did have a great computer, which you maybe talk about, the Coco, the color computer.
64, it was everywhere.
They're great, because they're the coolest. You understand what's going on with an Apple II. It's not going to trick you. Nothing sneaky going to happen on Apple II.
They break down, you put them in the closet, and they heal themselves.
The Commodore is definitely the one that I have like 10 of them at home, just in case. I'll have one till the day I die.
And so they would invent in their own minds any justification to show that the other computer was a piece of crap.
We used to call the Apple people the blockheads because everything was in capitals. They never used their shift keys.
Oh gosh, we hated Trash 80.
And a TRS-80 guy would never own an Apple, and an Apple guy would never own a TRS-80.
I think I didn't like the Commodores, just the way they were shaped.
Actually, IBM was kind of like the enemy.
The Trash 80s were toys.
I remember seeing people, viciously attacking people nonstop in the message boards. They were people that I would actually follow a guy around and keep an eye on him and keep lashing out at him on multiple, bulletin boards. I mean, it got that serious.
If you were a Commodore user and you were on our bulletin board, it had to be because you told us you had an Atari or an Apple or a PC. We had zero tolerance for Commodore. And not for any practical reason, except for the fact that you have to delineate yourself from somebody else. We're the Commodore free zone. So that's what we were.
So that was probably where a lot of the emotion came from. It's like, why are you making fun of my computer? It's a computer just like yours is.
This extended off of the bulletin boards, these wars, because you would walk into a store and you would hear some Commodore kid that would see somebody looking at an Atari computer getting ready to buy it, and they go, you don't want that. It's not powerful enough. They can't even run a disk drive. They can't run this. And I remember myself personally stepping up and going, and getting involved in that. and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, we have robotic arms, we have Corvus disk drive, we have this, we have that, we have all these sorts of things. And you'd see people that were kind of looking at the computer, they'd be kind of like, you know, stepping back somewhere, like, okay, let's get out of here.
One of the local electronics stores had set up a BBS that they were running out of their electronics store on this Amiga. And, well, that just would not do. And so various people at various times would go up to the store, and they would have this BBS was running on this PC, and they would disable that BBS. Just take it offline, just remove the mouse ball, set it aside, or do something. So now they can't do anything on their computer. I remember him making threats against the sysop of that. Now, he was 16 probably, and the sysop was an employee of the store. And he's like, you got to take your board down, or, you know, something bad is going to happen. I remember him coming home and saying, I just followed the guy home from work, and I threatened him from my car and told him, you know, you got to take your board down. And I'm like, what in the world are you doing? And so then we stole the mouse ball from this computer, and he posts this plea on the bulletin board. Anybody who knows where my mouse ball is, because this is a time when you can't get replacement parts for the mouse balls. Anybody who knows where a mouse ball is, please let me have it back, you know.
The biggest advantage it had, that, you know, I couldn't put this to words then, but the biggest advantage was I had one.
Being a natural pack rat, I got a fundamental problem in paying to throw things away. It's bad enough to actually get around to finally throwing something away, but to pay to throw it away, that just hurts.
I'll put a link to BBS the documentary. I'm actually in it, but only 2 or 3 times for very few seconds. But if you, the author of this, the producer, doesn't mind if people get digital copies. Well, he'd love for you to buy it, but if he doesn't mind if you share it digitally. He came to Carrollton, Texas, Jason Scott, and filmed me for, I think it was 2.5 hours. Of course, he only used a little tiny bit of it. He posted some of the videos that he made, the uncut ones, on the archive, Internet Archive site. And I forget how many that he posted. And he was going to post mine next. That's been years ago. He stopped. He didn't post mine. So I've been thinking, oh my God, what did I say in that made him perhaps think that he better not post it. Anyway, I'll put a link to his site, and on YouTube there are, I don't know if it's in one segment or there's parts of it. I'll put a link there also. Whoops. I didn't want to do that. Stop recording. I don't want to record that. I'm doing a screen capture. That's what I want to